we're finally back into canon with this week's episode of One Piece, episode 897, and a big time moment in Wano, at least with Wano Act 1, with what's going on with Tama obviously drinking the contaminated water, but also the desert wasteland at one point where Luffy, he sees it because of, it's run down because of the rulings of Orochi and Kaido. So they rule everything, so they get all the luxury. So that's basically what this was. They struggled to get Otama to A, get something to eat, and B, to get us not ill anymore. So that's what Luffy's job was. But a few things that actually stick out to me. Obviously, this is going to be dominated by the reunion of Luffy and Zoro, of course. But there's certain things that actually, in my mind, is as a manga reader, did that actually happen in the manga? Like, for instance, when Luffy was talking to Hitetsu, taking Otama to, obviously, to a nurse or to a doctor, he's talking about having the not going with them because obviously he's waiting for someone. We still don't know who that is, even in the manga. But we can have theories or suggestions. But either way, Luffy activates observation Haki and immediately turns his attention to a sword, and we find out it's the Nidai Kitetsu, one of the 21 legendary blades. And I love we got the exposition of all the high-ranking swords. I thought that was pretty cool as not only a refresher, but pretty much just to indicate of how important this sword is. And as soon as you see that, who do you think that sword's going to? And number one, the fact that it was Hitetsu called it the cursed sword. Yeah, where we've heard that before. And if you're still not familiar, Zoro has a Sandai Kitetsu, and so obviously going to be the upgrade for Zoro after Wano, or possibly during the final battle of Wano. Because there's no reason why Luffy would take that sword. Number one, he doesn't know how to use it. We found that out further back, unless he's possessed by a certain shadow, which point of Luffy taking that. So that's number one. Number two is the fact that Luffy, he activated his observation Haki, and I didn't even remember if he did this in the manga or not, but I just thought it was a great attention to detail, and I think it's one of those things that makes the anime stand out a little bit more than the manga. They've done that ever since Wano began. So it gives us a rundown. You should be taking that because it's a cursed sword. It's exactly what happens in Logtown when Zoro gets the Sandai Kitetsu. He pretty much, I don't want to sell this to you because it's a cursed sword, and Zoro just throws it in the air, and he avoids having his arm cut off. And Tashigi was there, remember? So it's exactly what it's not the circumstances, and it's two members of the Straw Hats reuniting in this episode. So the parallels are there. It's the sword we saw Luffy holding in the visual. Obviously, we see Luffy finally in the kimono. It was in the promotional image that we saw during Jump Festa, so we knew Luffy's going to be wearing a kimono. So Luffy looks apart, so he can't go out in his casual gigs. Obviously, he'll be recognized instantly. But I guess by the end of the episode, it doesn't really matter. Either way, we see Luffy with, I guess, Kamainu, and we do actually get more exposition on Ace and Otama, because she doesn't wake up and she's like freaking out because obviously what Luffy told her previously, with Ace obviously dying in Marineford. And what's really messed up is kind of like the eye opener, because Wano was so isolated. She didn't even know what happened at the Marineford, the Paramount War. So obviously they're not going to get the newspaper. I'm assuming Kyra and Orochi's the exception, but it's like the rest of Wano are completely in the dark about what's going on in the rest of the world. So remember, one of the biggest plot points of this arc is to open up the borders to Wano. So that was what they said back in Zou. So that's another way of looking at it, because Wano doesn't fall under the world government. So there you go. See just Luffy's seriousness, because like I said, he sees the wasteland, and we see the animals that pretty much died because of the contaminated water. The Tama gives us the backstory of what's going on. It's not just the people. It's not just factories that contaminated. Immediately, it cuts to, like, obviously the authorities looking for Zoro the Slasher and Zoro the Slasher, and Zoro's eating meat. And I think it's very, very obvious. We get the explanation after Zoro starts eating the animal he roasted up, because the Tama says most of the animals in that desert actually got sick because they got contaminated because they drank the water, obviously contaminated by the factories, similar to what with Otama. And we see Zoro eating meat, instantly. And when you see Luffy and Zoro reuniting, it's like, oh, I got a stomachache. So I'm definitely sure it's how everything ties itself up. We see Zoro munching away. He says, oh, I've only had some sake. He activates observation Haki and he sees a woman who's being chased with a unique appearance with another two subordinates of Kaido. So once again, another female being helped by another member of the Straw Hats. So the parallels are there with building up to that reunion. So Zoro, like Luffy, he triggers his observation Haki. He chases them down. I love his explanation as to why he went after Kaido's boys, but at the same time, you have Luffy with Tama, and she's really getting worse. She even has a fever at one point. Luffy says, "Oh, you're burning up," so it's becoming a mess for Tama. So they need to get some help ASAP. But then this is where things pick up because we see Hawkins making his move whilst this is all going on. He's making his way to where Luffy's location's at, or at least where the last subordinates under his jurisdiction got attacked. What's going on? But then it cuts to Zoro taking care of these two fodder, and immediately I just love Zoro's reasoning for this. Yeah, I'm just after your socket, guys, so you better fuck it up before you're dead. Either way, Zoro takes care of these two jokers. Obviously, the animation, crisp and to the point. Zoro takes care of these two jokers, and then just guzzles the sake. This woman's very indebted to Zoro. Says, "Oh, I need to repay you," much like Otama said the same thing to Luffy, obviously, because he saved their life. So obviously, I could do with some more sake, and we're all out. And then, well, something weird happens because we see Hawkins and a bunch of his boys show up. While this is going on, before they show up, this woman disappears completely. So she goes out of the picture, but it's obviously she's hiding. So she's obviously going to play another role in the upcoming episodes, but I thought that was kind of interesting. While this is going on, with Zoro drinking sake, and then finally Luffy noticing who that is, and which is really cool because if you remember during the time skip, he completely misread the fake Straw Hats for like the real ones. So now obviously he's not mistaken. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It's like this is like a proper reunion, how you would expect. Luffy, his face is exactly what he did with Sabo. He jumps in the air. Zoro, you don't really see Zoro smile like that very often. In fact, it's the complete opposite of what happened with Sanji back in Hawkins Island when, if you remember, Luffy actually did dive at the car where the Vince Smokes were, and Sanji just kicked him away. Here, Zoro kind of embraces him a little bit. He's kind of tentative at first, but he kind of embraces it. So that's the difference. Obviously, the situations are completely different with Sanji's case, but I'm just mentioning it is the parallels with the Monster Trio. So I have to admit, I got a kick out of this. 2+ years since we've seen Zoro and Luffy together in the same arc, so that was kind of cool. Zoro, obviously a wanted man, so now he's under prosecution, and they immediately have Hawkins show up. Luffy detects him with observation Haki, so this is going to be a problem. Nice, this guy. So I love that because it's like, oh, they're aware of Capone back in Hawkins Island, and Luffy's like, oh, you don't know this guy. They know him. So Hawkins is here. It's like, oh, Mugiwara, you're here too. And Zoro's the slasher. So Hawkins handles both Luffy and Zoro. If you're a betting boy, it would appear I would place my bets on Luffy and Zoro. However, Hawkins is a member of the worst generation, and Hawkins has a few quotes that struck out. Number one, he says, "You have a subordinate of Kaido now," so that's what Zoro kind of brings up. It's like, "Oh, you're working under Kaido now," and we know he's the headliner. We know Drake is working under Kaido, but he does say you either work under Kaido or you find a way to become strong. Only the strong survive, or something like that, which is exactly what something similar that Law mentioned back in Punk Hazard when he talking to Luffy. The only way to survive in the new world is to either work under a Yonko or take them out. It's kind of the same thing here with Hawkins. I guess Hawkins and Apu didn't want to get their asses beat by Kaido. I think Kid was the exception. He didn't want to go along with it, and we saw what happened. Because I don't see Kid the one to take orders from anybody. So I think that's the same thing here. Luffy's reaction. We remember Kinemon told us not to cause any trouble, But Luffy's expression and Zoro's expression got me. It's like they're about to cause some major havoc. Like, yeah, we need to apologize to Kinemon. And that's how the episode ends. I like that they didn't show too much in the preview. I think that was pretty good, even though they do show some things in the opening, but whatever. But Hawkins versus Luffy and Zoro this early on is pretty unexpected for a lot of anime onlys, I'm sure. But either way, it's cool to see Zoro and Luffy reunite for the first time in, 2-3 years now? So that was great. It played itself. But I thought it was great as actually. It's great to go back into canon, obviously, with the two-part filler that we got, the 2 episodes. Now back into canon, and obviously Wano is going to be heating up all the way up into episode 900. So the end of the celebration when it comes to One Piece. So that's going to do it for today, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about the Zoro and Luffy reunion in the anime? Like this big review if you did. Subscribe to for more One Piece. Catch you guys later. Thanks, guys. Bye.